I don't know about you guys. I'm excited. It's assignment one, and assignment one is going to lay the foundation of this entire semester, all 5 weeks. When you stop and think about 5 weeks, yikes, that's rough, right? That's pretty fast for a course of this magnitude. But so far, before you watch this video, I want you to go into Blackboard and take a look at the group list that I just posted under the Lessons tab. Now, this is a random grouping that I created, and this will be the group that you work with throughout the rest of the semester. Now, as far as the group work in this class goes, group work within an online class is a bit of it's not exactly the easiest thing to do, and I understand that. I'm going to try really hard to balance group efforts with lots of individual efforts. That way, if there is problems within the groups, I can kind of see where those problems are. Group writing, collaborative writing, is an absolutely essential part of tech writing. Because one of the things that you'll notice is we don't necessarily have a lot of author identity in the works that we create. They are very neutral. They're not as impassioned as some other forms of writing are. So having the writing within the groups, that's really like one of the main functions of this thing. We respond in the professional world with a voice of kind of collectivism. A lot of times organizations will respond. Teams will work together to put together a response where the person writing the portion of the project blends in. That's a challenge. It's one I want to try to encounter. And it definitely will present us some interesting obstacles along the way. But I will be very mindful of making sure that there's a lot of individual effort and the collaborative stuff will be balanced. If someone drops out of your group for whatever reason, I don't want it to affect everyone else, but it will definitely put a magnifying glass on that person, which is, again, tough to do. But I think as we move forward with these group projects, you'll see how that happens. So take a look at the group list. I'm going to form or create discussion boards for each group. Anytime I ask you to do something in the group discussion board, that's the board you will do this on. Those will become the primary vectors by which you will interact with your group mates. Now, if you want to contact each other with other means, obviously I can't stop you, but I will be grading and looking for the stuff that appears in the discussion forum. That's where you guys will form your responses, and that's where you'll build these collective efforts. So now that I've kind of laid down the foundation, the infrastructure for how these interactions will move forward, what are we doing? These groups are going to be assigned a random topic. And these topics go from extremely serious and vanilla to cray. I love the cray ones, but the vanilla ones can be just as exciting depending on the people who are in the groups and depending on the effort that you put into it. This assignment is born out of my love with one of the coolest things that's ever existed on planet Earth, and part of the reason why I was so popular and beloved in high school. And that's Dungeons and Dragons, right? Now, I know a lot of you guys probably aren't familiar with Dungeons and Dragons because you weren't like us, the cool kids at the table in our wizard robes, rolling our 20-sided die and casting Firebolt, as in between bites of Salisbury steak. But Dungeons and Dragons is a game where you create a character and has a bunch of skill stats, and these numbers are generated using a variety of metrics. I know, wake up. These numbers that your characters have determine things like their strength, their intelligence, their toughness, ability to take damage, their wisdom. All of these things are different. I know they sound very similar, but you weigh these numbers against a lot of theoretical situations that the characters you control encounter in the game world, whether it's slaying the orc butterfly with your sword of beheadingness, or trying to rip off a village blacksmith to try to get a lower price on a sword. Anytime you try to do anything in the game world, you roll a dice, and the dungeon master decides the outcome by comparing the score of your stat to the score of the dice. Wake up, wake up. This is interesting stuff. You guys weren't cool like me. Anyway, we're not going to necessarily make it that complicated. But what I did salvage is the theoretical scenarios and the character creation. You guys are going to create characters. Now, I'm not going to necessarily have the rigid rules that Dungeons and Dragons does. But what I am going to do is give you random dice rolls to give you the situation that your character is thrust into. You will be playing this character for the entirety of the class. Now, please put your real name on things, okay? Please make sure you put your real name on stuff. I don't want to keep up with Zachary Taylor and Lothar Thangnarian Snarebeast. You know, I did that once, and it was awful. But you are going to use different names for yourselves. You're going to come up with backgrounds that are appropriate for the scenario that I give you. Why am I doing this? Well, technical writing is supposed to be something that adapts for a variety of situations. It's not necessarily about what you are trained to do. It's about communicating in a medium that is universal for the reader, right? Easily accessed and easily adapted. So throwing a kind of weird, strange scenario at you where you have to adapt a bunch of jargon, where you have to do research to figure out what's going on in this brand new world that you and Jasmine are riding on this magic carpet around. And he's like, don't you dare close your eyes. I've had too much coffee. Anyway, I'm sure you guys kind of get the point here. Now, the real reason I created this assignment is because one of the things that I absolutely need from you for this course is a resume. When I first taught this course, I had an assignment where you had to submit a resume and I'd critique it. This presented me a number of problems because most of my students, especially the ones in the TRF group, you guys already have really good resumes. And so for me to come in and be like, you didn't do this right on your resume, all my students would retort and be like, well, I got hired. Yeah, you did, but I'm cooler than you because I played Dungeons and Dragons in high school. Anyway, the best way to get a really good resume from you is for you to not do it for yourself. It's for you to do it for a brand new person that you've created, a person with different skill sets, a person with a different history that you have to bring to life within this resume of epicness. Now, our first assignment that I will create the Dropbox for today is a complex character profile. It's going to require 3 things from you. The first is a 2-page character description. Now, the character description is very simply put a kind of notepad for you to bring your character to life. I don't grade the character description very thoroughly. I'm not going to get mad at you about misspellings. I'm not even going to get too upset with you if you have a couple of grammar errors in there because this is a creative space. I want you to think about all the idiosyncrasies of your character. Who are they? Where did they come from? Do they pick their nose when no one thinks they're looking? What are their flaws? Where did they grow up? What kind of education do they have? I'm going to write all this down in a nice big thick character description, like guidelines for this assignment. So as I'm laying this out for you, this is going to come to you in a written format as well. So don't think that you have to keep absolute track of all this. But these are some of the questions I want you to consider as you're writing this out. When you get your scenario, also, what kind of job is your character going to be doing in the group? One of the requirements I want is everyone in the group needs to have a different job from each other. Meaning you guys are going to have to go into your discussion forums that I'll create after this video and figure out what every person is going to be doing. Everyone must fulfill a different role, and you're going to have to do some research into some of the ways that those roles will be fulfilled. Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be someone who is in charge of security? And this will all make much more sense when the group assignments happen, so don't panic yet. But the character description is just a very general, easy, creative overview of who your character is. From there, you will go on to create a resume. Now, you guys have written resumes before. I'm sure you have. Go online, find a template, and fill it in. There are some kind of interesting hurdles you might have to jump over, though. Depending on your character's identity and the job that you want them to perform, your resume might have to look a little different. A lawyer's resume is going to look very different from a graphic designer's or a teacher's or a security guard. They're going to have different experiences and different attributes that they're going to rely on to get that job. Does your character have military experience? What branch were they in? What degree do they have? These are the things that you need to think about as you create this resume. The thing also that a lot of people don't think about when they're creating a resume, I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but resumes have fundamentally changed in the past few years. I want your resumes to be readable on a screen. Now, the good news is most of the templates you're going to use to create your resume, even if you just go on Google or like resume template, you're still going to probably find something that's designed to be readable in that capacity. This was something that I learned not too long ago. I used to be very much about clean cut, paper printed, black and white resumes that didn't have a lot of fancy colors and shapes and weird borders and, weren't scented with cologne. But it turns out the world has kind of changed since I was last looking for a job. Most resumes are now part of a social media profile. LinkedIn has become the gold standard for this. A lot of jobs that you apply to these days don't even necessarily want a paper resume anymore. A lot of them want your LinkedIn resume as it's attached to your profile on there. We got to start thinking about how your resume reads online. It probably needs to be shorter as opposed to longer. There were some jobs I was looking for. I hope my boss doesn't see this. This was a long time ago. I'm very happy, but there were some jobs I was thinking about trying to shift into some time ago. My resume was like 25 pages long. It's because I put every single experience on there that I'd done academically, the conferences I spoke at, the workshops I delivered, the publications. Turns out, if you actually want to apply for a technical writing position, you got to whittle that resume down to like almost a page. The further you go on the resume, you're actually going to get yourself disqualified from the candidate pool. And you need to communicate that information very quickly, very organized, and very friendly. This stuff's kind of challenging. For an academic like me, the curriculum vitae is supposed to be like mailing in a phone book. That's not the case with most jobs. And that was kind of something that I was kind of shocked to learn. So the resume has a bunch of pitfalls in it that we don't necessarily think about. White space is important. One of the big edits I'm going to suggest to you guys when I start seeing these resumes, I'm going to be like, you need to fill up this white space. You need to fill up your page. If you're going on to the second page and you got a big chunk of white space, that's going to kind of anger me a little bit. It needs to be readable. It needs to be pleasant to look at. A bunch of white space is gross, right? These are the types of things that we need to learn when we're designing our writing products to be accessible and to be pleasant to read. Now, the resume is going to have a bunch of these pitfalls and issues. Now, the third part of this assignment, and let's review. So far, we got the character description. That's a free creative portion of the assignment where you lay out your character. We've got the resume. The resume is extremely formal and needs to look extremely pretty depending on the template that you choose. Lots of pitfalls here. The last portion of this assignment, and this is one of my favorites, you actually have to design a social media profile for your character. Now, this is not to say that you actually have to go on Facebook or Twitter and make this profile, because there's a chance, like one time I had a student create a dummy GoFundMe page, and I was worried that he was actually going to start getting donations, which, to be fair, would have been hilarious, but also would have kind of been fraud. Anyway, so you're going to create social media accounts. There are ways that you can create fake accounts online, ways that kind of make them look very Facebooky. You don't necessarily have to do that because I'm not necessarily as worried about the way social media accounts look as much as I'm worried about the content. Social media is a minefield, and a lot of people get themselves in trouble on social media. This might actually become a bit of a lecture I do all on its own later because it's worth talking about, but we can definitely go ahead and jump in this sphere and play. How many people or how many stories have you heard about people really messing themselves up on Facebook with something that they said? That is a very common occurrence right now. We have a tendency as society to look upon these types of events as an expression of, well, I don't want to be dismissive or derogatory, but an expression of stupidity. People get on Facebook and they act stupid. That's a little bit more it's a little more complicated than that. Part of the issue is I think most people don't understand the power of social media, and they don't understand the consequences of putting a whole bunch of stuff out there that is not like curated for the identity that they would like to create for themselves. This is a problem because we don't teach people how to be good on Facebook. Ooh, it got blurry. That's a pretty cool effect. Anyway, we don't teach people how to be on Facebook. We don't teach people how to use Facebook for constructive purposes. How do we use Facebook professionally? How do we use LinkedIn professionally? How do we use Twitter professionally? I hate myself for saying this. How do we use Snapchat professionally? I just threw up in my mouth a little. There are ways of doing this. All sorts of brands are on Twitter and Snapchat and Facebook. They use it as a way to promote their brand and do something with it. My personal example of this was when I was going through some pretty messed up stuff professionally. I learned how to market myself as a freelance editor. And I ended up taking freelance work, editing other people's writing. I got paid a lot of money for that. A lot of people worry about their jobs. Duh. A lot of people fret about losing their jobs. And if they lose their job, they go into a mode where they must find that other job as quickly as possible, right? If I lose my job, I immediately know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start editing and I'm going to start looking for clients to get at least a stream of income coming in the duration. I'm much more likely to find a full-time steady gig editing than I am actually looking for a job. Without having the social media savvy that I have, that would never have been possible, right? So I got my own crash course in social media as a kind of oxygen life support when I had my own issues. We need to work on that. Now, the good news is we can kind of have fun with it. But different characters, different occupations are going to use social media differently. They're going to have different requirements of them. Why would a police officer have a Facebook account? Why would a publisher of novels be on Twitter? Why would a healthcare professional use Snapchat? These are all really good questions. Now, in creating your social media profile, you can simply go on Microsoft Word, choose a profile picture for yourself, put it on there, and write me a brief profile. Choose what type of information you would put on there and do a few sample posts. I think about six posts for your social media profile, and that will be all that she wrote. Now, I'm going to be checking your social media profiles for appropriateness to your professional identity and your company. If you're going to push limits, if you're going to go off of the beaten path of social media usage, you need to have a good explanation as to why you're going to do that. This is an experimental part of the assignment. You guys can have some fun with this. Now, how am I going to be grading all of this? I'm not going to be necessarily so much of a dragon on you with this. This is the preliminary assignment. We're laying foundation for all the really, really formal stuff we're going to do later. Everything's going to draw from this. But a lot of the times when I'm grading technical writing documents, I'm looking for how it reads and how it looks. And the things I'm going to have problems with are going to be a little random. I'm going to say things to you like, I don't like the template you used. Or I need you to word this differently. Or you need to go and break this up into subheadings. You need to list this out. You're naturally going to want to ask, why? Why should I have to change that? I have my reasons, right? Sometimes I don't. Mr. Bailey, are you seriously going to do that to us? That you're just going to ask us to change things just because that's all that you want and you're just randomly throwing stuff at us? You bet I am. Do you know why? That's what bosses do. That's what people who are over you in a writing community and in a writing-based assignment do. You're just going to have to change stuff. Now, for me, I believe that this is an essential task that you guys need to learn to adapt to. My colleagues are looking at me through the window. I don't know if they know that I'm live streaming, but they keep messing with me. And oh my gosh, I'm going to prank the ever-living bananas out of them. It made me totally lose my train of thought. I just lost a 20-minute stream because of you guys. I'll keep it. I need more coffee. Anyway, so when I ask you to arbitrarily change things around and to go back and reorganize things, keep in mind, that's how the real world works, right? That's just kind of one of the things that David do. Now, for all of this to begin, you need to know what your assignment is. I love this part. I love this part. I have listed 20 different group assignments. This is very Dungeons and Dragons. I've got 20 group assignments here. I'll share a few of them with you so that you know the kind of stuff that's about to happen. I've got a local bar. I have a zoo, all you cats and kittens. A comic book. A board game. That's a fun one. And a used car dealership. That's only a few out of the possible 20. This is your destiny. This is a D20. I'm going to roll this dice for every group. And this is the task that you will have. Everyone must create a character responding to these assignment prompts. It's going to be fun, right? So, without further ado, let's learn your destinies. Group 1. I'm going to write these down so that I have them etched in stone. Here we go. You guys ready? Group 1. Your topic assignment will be, you guys are creating a video game. That's legit. Now, let me explain something a little quickly. You don't actually have to create a video game. You're going to put a concept together of what this game might look like. You're going to do things like asking for funding to create the game. You're going to be identifying what the goal of the game is, maybe creating a few character parameters. Maybe you'll produce some instruction manual material for it. All those types of things. You're going to be creating the supplementary material. You are going to have to come up with a basic design in this fact that you'll have to be able to answer the question, what is the goal? Who do you play as? What are the game mechanics? Not everybody understands video games. A lot of people don't play video games. I know, right? What's wrong with you? But if you are not a gamer, you're going to have to look up some stuff. That's part of it, right? That's what we're doing here. We're learning about communication environments. We're learning about jargon. We're learning about those infrastructures that you have to know in order to adapt to a new technical writing environment. So you might need to go a Googling. Anyway, I can recommend some reading for you if you want to get a crash course. Let me to several guys. Ian Bogost. I might actually write this within the group description on the discussion board. Ian Bogost is good. Matt Barton is good. I'll link you to this stuff. There's lots of good stuff out there. Anyway, you guys will be creating a video game. Who are you within this group? Are you a lawyer? Are you a game designer? Are you a writer? Are you an artist? Do you clean the floor in the office building? Anyway, let's go with group 2. Your destiny awaits. Oh, there's an ant over there. Ow. Anyway, all right, group 2. You guys will be creating a racing league. Now, I got some suggestions for you. This does not have to be NASCAR. This can be, have you guys heard of the marble runs that are on YouTube right now? I think it's Lou's Marble Runs. I'll link it in your group discussion board. These guys have created an entire racing league out of marbles, and they're getting quite popular. But you can be racing souped up washing machines. You can be racing spaceships. Last time I had this one come up in a group, it was a Star Wars racing league that was set in the universe of Star Wars. So they actually asked Jabba the Hutt for money to fund them. They designed spaceships, and don't worry, these were all like stick figure stuff. So I don't think you have to give me like real true design schematics. Although if you could actually do that, you're great. But all of this stuff is, it's the writing that I'm most concerned with. So there's a lot of fun stuff. You can set it in the world of Waterworld if you want to feel pain. There's so much fun stuff that you could do with this. So I'll link you to some resources. But you guys are starting a racing league. That's a good one. Group 3, what shall your fate be? Oh, you cats and kittens, you're starting a zoo. Now, the zoo. If you want to set this in the Tiger King expanded universe, that would be pretty cool, right? But you don't have to. I actually had a group one time start a Pokemon zoo. There's a lot of really interesting information. You can do stuff like that within like a license, and you can look up information on Pokemon. You can set this in all sorts of different fictional universes. You can iron out these details within the group discussion board. Any discussion that you put in the board from here on out is going to be to your benefit, because if you're in the discussion boards, I'm going to be watching that, and you're going to earn maybe not necessarily points, but happy points, where I'm going to be like, I like you, and that's a good thing. But the zoo, if you want to put together a straightforward zoo, there's lots of interesting things you could do with that. Think about creating a budget. How much does it actually cost to run a zoo? How much does it cost to take care of a tiger, to keep it fed? What does it cost to have an anaconda on display? Budgets are something we're going to be working with. And that's another role that someone in the group could play. Someone who is the accountant, managing the budget, writing about the budget, presentations about the budget. This is all good stuff. Zookeepers and people who work there. What are the proper containment methods for a Pikachu? Do you have any idea how dangerous a Pikachu would be if there was someone with a heart condition? I mean, think about the potential lawsuits there, right? How would you maintain and keep a Metroid if we're in the Nintendo universe? All of these things are fair game. There's so much fun, weird customization that you guys can put into these topics, right? So I'm giving you some sample identities with the zookeepers, security, accountants. They would have probably a need for a lobbyist to try to secure government funding. So all of these are different roles you could play. Group 4. Let us learn your destiny. Gosh, I feel like an evil like dungeon master, like pronouncing upon you horrible, horrible fates. All right, group 4. Oh, everybody's going to be jealous of you. You are opening a local bar. Local is the key term here. The ones that have local in the name, it's important for you to keep that aspect of it in mind. What kind of bar would be successful in this area? What are the documents that you need to file? What are the laws regulating the serving of alcohol? These are extremely important questions. Now, yeah, I love this one. What kind of venue? What kind of entertainment? What kind of decor? This identity, this is a brand new identity that we could do. These are like character classes in Dungeons and Dragons. The interior designer. What kind of furniture are you going to have? What is going to draw the most people, right? All of these are things that you need to really think about. And so having a character just addressing these issues would even be important in funding. Like the first assignment you're going to have after the character description is a funding proposal. You got to convince a bank to give you the money to get this project started. And so all of a sudden, the interior design very much goes into the proposal. This bar is going to attract people because we've created an environment that is friendly and open, and people are going to want to come here. This becomes an important issue for drawing people into the establishment. Do you see the wide range of characters that we can have for each of these assignments? And there's a bit of crossover between every one too. All right, so the bar. Ooh, another good one. The bartender would potentially be charged with creating drinks. What kind of drinks are you going to have to be the signature drinks of the bar? Now, the fun part of this is you could purposefully have the worst drinks in existence, or you could go with drinks that follow a theme. If you really wanted to, you could actually try to mix this stuff yourself. But I mean, I'm not condoning that because, morals. But anyway, all of these things come together and make for these are all the options that you have. Okay. All right. Group 5. What fate awaits thee? All right. That's a re-roll because we already have a video game. I am filled with joy. Oh, I'm filled with joy. You guys are opening a used car dealership. How lovingly lame. How utterly boring and simple. Or is it? How are you going to open a good used car dealership? So many of the used car dealerships that I've seen, at least in this area, have wacky, weird marketing gimmicks that they use to get people in the door. This introduces a new character, the PR person, the marketer. That becomes extremely important because all of these used car dealerships have to have some type of weird, strange identity that they use to draw traffic to the place. It usually involves monsters, balloons, clowns. Well, where I lived before, we had a guy pretending to be a Jedi selling used cars. All of this stuff is extremely, typical for these types of establishments. So the marketer all of a sudden becomes really someone you could split into 3 different groups. Someone who's in charge of television commercials, someone who's in charge of ads on the radio, magazine ads. You could really split this up into whole different areas if you wanted to. I'm not requiring that. Someone who's in charge of inventory. How much does it actually cost to bring in used cars? What kind of cars are you going to be looking to furnish the place with? You can't just take any car that offers itself to you. You have to think about, what am I going to be able to resell? What type of product, what type of inventory do I want to bring on? All of this becomes extremely important. How on earth do you differentiate yourself from all the other used car dealerships out there? So this is a fun mix of projects, and I'm very excited to see what you guys come up with. Right now, all you're concentrating on is the character description, the resume, and the social media profile. Unlike everything else that comes after this, these can be a little bit ugly. your technical writing prowess starts here. I encourage you, go ahead and make your mistakes. Go ahead and make this ugly and gross so that we can kind of figure out where we need to go from here. I will post an assignment write-up a little later today so that you have kind of an instruction manual that you can follow in order to put this packet together. Now, the first thing you need to do is make sure you go into your discussion groups tailored for your group. I'm going to go make a video game group, a racing league group, a zoo group, the bar group, and the used car dealership group. And you guys need to figure out, my dice, no, come back. Almost went down the hole. You guys need to go figure out who is doing what. If you have problems deciding who is doing what, or you need options for characters, I got you. I can do that. I've been doing that all day. I got a whole list of them. But I want to see if you guys can come up with this yourself. Feel free to email me. Feel free to give me a call on the old telephone. I will be around. I am so proud of this assignment. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Anyway, you guys be safe. Have a wonderful day. And let's go.